I'm temporarily muting you, Nidhi ji. Just 1 second. Oh, by the way, if you if you want to move to little bit away from the kitchen area, so नमो अरिहन्ताणं नमो सिद्धाणं नमो आयर्याणं नमो उवज्जायाणं नमो लोए सवसाहुणम। जय जिनेन्द्र सभी को। हमने अभी तक वी हैव फिनिश्ड समरीज बाय स्टूडेंट्स टिल उत्तम संयम। टुडे निधि जी विल स्टार्ट विद उत्तम तप and hopefully Kshamavani also, and then Arun ji will do next. So you can start, Nidhi ji.
उत्तम तप समस्त रागादि पर भावेच्छा त्यागेन स्वरूपे प्रतपनम विजनयम तपः. That is, upon giving up all attachments, aversions, and such unnatural state of soul, absorbing oneself intensely in the true nature of soul, burning away alien associations, that is, karma and passions, with the fire of self-awareness, austerity of soul dwelling, and hence conquering absorption in true self is tap. So it is all about absorption in self, that is tap, that leads you to the self-absorption is tap. And when uttam is prefixed to the tap, that means there is samyak darshan is a prerequisite for uttam tap. That is why, because samyak or samyak darshan is available to Muni Maharaj, so uttam tap is defined with the perspective of Muni Maharaj. That is how he observes it. The fruits of Uttam Tap are indescribable even by thousands of tongues, as it is instrumental cause of burning away heaps of karmas. There is nothing that one can obtain, there is nothing that one cannot obtain through faultless austerity, including moksha. So it is liked even by the devas. So हम जो मनुष्य हैं, we can perform tap which the dev cannot. So that is why that this Uttam Tap makes the human form most valuable among all forms, because we can perform tap. There, before I start with the kind of taps, there are a few more points. That is, Nishchay Dharma is Vitrag Bhav. And all austerities are undertaken with the intent of nourishing and enhancing the same from conventional viewpoint. That is, whatever tap we are doing, whether it be fasting or another or any other kind of tap, the intent is to intensify, deepen, and strengthen equanimity. And it is to strengthen the vitrag bhav. So the tap for the sake of tap are not done. They are done to enhance shuddhopayog. So when tap weakens shuddhopayog, that is, fasting is not supporting the intensification in self-absorption, then you stop fasting, you take food. Right. So the fast ka purpose is not like you have to torture your body or you have to keep doing whatever the act you are doing. The purpose is to intensify self-absorption. So therefore, जब मुनि महाराज को तब से फास्टिंग से लगता है कि अब शरीर इतना वीक हो रहा है कि वो अपना अपना ध्यान नहीं कर पा रहे हैं या अपने आत्मा में नहीं जा पा रहे हैं, तो वो भोजन ग्रहण करते हैं. महावीर भगवान ने भी हमेशा भोजन ग्रहण किया इसी तरह से. मतलब ये नहीं कि उनको मतलब तप में लगे हैं तो बस, और आदिनाथ भगवान ने भी 6 महीने बाद भोजन ग्रहण किया. So amongst the tap,
Hmm.
swadhyay and
I don't
meditation
know
are
if you covered the initial, what is tap? Any
हाँ.
desire towards other than your soul, giving up any desire other than your soul, anything other than your soul, and staying within your soul is the actually tap.
It's the tap.
Okay, yeah.
And there are 6 forms of tap to
Hmm.
achieve that.
Hmm.
So there are 6 internal antarang tap
Right.
and 6 bahirang tap, external tap. External tap are like displaying outside, and internal tap is what we are doing inside.
Hmm.
So the external taps are fasting, that is complete, no food, no water. Then eating less than one's fill, that is unodar.
Hmm.
Uh, then limiting the choice of food by time, place, and donor. This is व्रत परिसंख्यान जो मुनि महाराज करते हैं जब वो they set out for having ahar. They have these notions like that I'll have food from someone who are standing in a couple, or they are having bananas in their plate or something like that, so
Hmm.
that they
Other
restrict
conditions
the
under which they will get food. Yeah.
yes, this is Vrat Parisankyan.
Mhm.
Then renunciation of tastes. Like it is very common, customary among Digambar Jains to give up one taste, one ghee or sweet or milk or curd or salt every day. That is uh, Ras Parityag.
Hmm. So
Or
there is a difference in traditions. In Digambar, they do this one vigha at a time, right? In Shwetambar, I don't know if there is Ayambil Tap. I'm sure there is. I mean, it all depends what is popular. But in Shwetambar Parampara, Ayambil Tap is popular, where you give up all the five vigors. No ghee, tail, salt, masala, anything at all. A kadai, there are five vigors. And that is quite commonly done during Ashtanika in the Shwetambar Parampara. So people do it all 8, 9 days and things like that. So
then there is secluded lodging or Vivikta Shayyasan, where they just stay away from everybody and stay with, basically, it is to stay with the soul. Then endurance of bodily hardship, Kaya Kleshta, that is tolerating winters or very hot summer, or I mean, all the kinds of hardships, physical bodily hardships, like heat, cold, hunger, etc. I have this story that Shama Sagar ji told on the TV. Like he was telling that he was doing Bihar with Vidya Sagar Maharaj ji, and in the evening, due to some reason, they started late. So when they were about midway in the middle of a field,
mm,
the night fell, so they could not move
mm,
further. So they had to stay in that field, which was a cornfield, and it was a December night, so it was pretty cold. So they had to stay. So they saw this small hut they had prepared with the hay of the corn. So they had to stay there. So Shama Sagar Maharaji was back then a Shullak. So he was wearing this langoti. So he said that we all sat, and I saw that the others were constantly moving, meaning they were not comfortable sitting. So I also took away my langoti and just to find out what is wrong. So he came to know that the floor was very uncomfortable with those straws. They were pricking in the skin. And Vidyasagar Maharaji was completely fine, like calm. And what happened was a shower, because it was a winter night. They, put those another load of straw hay on them just to protect them from the cold. But that was even more uncomfortable because those were very dry and very harsh, and they were like pricking in. So those, she said that we had a very uncomfortable night, and we were like, ये श्रावक को अक्ल नहीं है, ये क्या कर देते हैं and all that. But in the morning, because they were all, Vidyasagar Maharaji was so calm, so they kept quiet, like they did not say anything, or they just tolerated, but they were not uncomfortable or uneasy. And then in the morning, when the sun shone and when they started the vihar, they saw that Vidyasagar Maharaji had blood showing on his skin everywhere because of the straw. But he was very calm. He said, "Koi baat nahi." That the Shravak helped us shed our karmas. You should not be, angry with them. They did their part. They tried to make us comfortable. It just helped. They just helped us. They just facilitated. So I see that as a very, very fine example of kaya klish. That how he used to, you know,
So see,
uh,
happens in Muni Dasha, okay? The purpose is not to torture the body. The purpose is that the body torture is not even felt because
yes,
their priority is soul.
yes, yes, right.
So for outsiders, it is body torture, like you said,
Mm,
that the blood is oozing out because these corn husks, whatever, must be sharp. But to the true Muni, or any Muni who can tolerate, like if their soul is their priority, then the the torture is not felt by them.
yes, very true, ma'am.
So वो काया क्लेश दूसरों के अपेक्षा से बताया जाता है.
Because their focus is on the body, so they think that he's being tortured, but he is living inside, so he cannot feel the pain as
Exactly.
much that others are doing.
और
Then there are
फील होता भी है तो दैट इज नॉट अ प्रायोरिटी. आई मीन बॉडी तो बॉडी है, तो मतलब थोड़ा फील तो होगा ही, बट द प्रायोरिटी इज नॉट. जस्ट लाइक अ बेबी, सपोज बच्चा है, खेल रहा है, साइकिल से गिर गया, घुटना छिल गया, खून भी आ रहा है, बट ही इज सो बिजी प्लेइंग, ही डजंट रियलाइज until he comes home, and then he cries because then he feels the burning very body. So
then there are the six internal taps, antarang tap. That is, one is prashchit, second is vinay, humility, third is vayavriti or selfless service of monks, etc. Then swadhyay, that is scriptural studies, and body renunciation, vayutsarg or bhavyantar parigraha ka tyag, and mediation, that is dhyan. It is noteworthy that the each austerity in succession is more significant than the predecessor in terms of drawing closer to state of equanimity. So fasting, though it appears to be difficult, but it is the first step. So it is the least important, least austere step, and least fruitful step. And meditation, which is the last step, is the most important step in terms of drawing closer to the state of equanimity. Fasting is first and meditation is the last among taps. If one meditates for even an antar muhurt, 48 minutes continuously, one can achieve omniscience. But if one observes fasting for a whole year, there is no guarantee of such an achievement. Like Muni Rishabdev remained without food, water for 1 year, 1 month, and 7 days. Whereas Bharat Chakravarti achieved omniscience within one antarmut just after accepting asceticism by power of meditation. Likewise, Unodar Tap is more significant than Anshan because Anshan is fasting, because it involves checking of desires and giving up nourishment halfway willingly. Among internal taps, Vinay tap means endless and bottomless reverence in the inner self for the right faith, right knowledge, right conduct, and aspiration for achieving it. So, Vinay tap is basically there are three types. Gyan darshan, charitra, upchar. Sorry, four types of Vinay tap. Gyan Vinay, Darshan Vinay, Charitra Vinay, or Upchar Vinay. So Gyan Vinay is faith Vinay, that is bottomless Vinay for right faith. Uh, uh, with, Vinay Darshan is Vinay for knowledge. Vinay Charitra is Vinay for conduct, and Upchar is bringing those things. The Dev Shastra Guru who possess the virtues. Upchar. Vayavriti is to engage the self and others in spiritual beneficence. That is, when the Muni Maharaj is not able to concentrate in because of physical discomfort or something, he's not able to stay in the Atma, then we try to restore their tranquility through service in the hour of physical discomfort and pain. That is Vayavriti. Swadhyaya is proclaimed as Param Tap. It means
I hope the
engaging.
rest of you guys are taking little notes of the whatever little bit details she's trying to summarize. It'll help you rather than, go through all the pages. The major, what is covered in each of these top. It would be nice if you guys can take notes. If you cannot take now, then just rehear the recording and take down notes. It'll help. Okay.
Swadhyaya is proclaimed as Param Tap. It means engaging in acquiring true knowledge of the self. Swa, that is self. Adhi, matlab knowledge. Aya is to acquire. Swadhyaya. So it includes reading and teaching, that is Vachan. Removing doubts by asking questions, Prachana, Jigyasa, ya Shankha Nivritti. Then third, deeply reflecting and contemplating what has been read, that is Bhav Mansik Chintan or Anupriksha. Amnai, which means repetition for learning by heart and retention. And fifth is instruction and preaching, that is Dharmopadesh. When meditation is the highest form of the being state in which omniscience is attained, in fact, all other austerities are undertaken for the accomplishment of progressively faultless dhyan.
So very good. You're all done?
Yes, ma'am.
That one, right? Okay.
Can I just clarify this question? Nidhi ji,
Sure.
you said 48 minutes of pure dhyan, that leads to keval dhyan or the moksha?
Keval Gyan.
Okay.
No, dhyan.
No.
Dhyan means being absorbed in the soul for 48 minutes continuously
Yes.
will get you keval gyan.
Keval dhyan,
Okay?
yeah.
So think about it. अगर जैसे महावीर भगवान को 30 साल लगे कि 12 के जो भी, हाँ, अच्छा, आदिनाथ भगवान को तो 1000 साल लग गए आफ्टर टेकिंग दीक्षा. सो क्या किया उन्होंने 1000 साल? They kept trying for those continuous 48 minutes to be with their soul. So if we sit in meditation and we cannot, like, the other thoughts come or whatever, don't be surprised. It is not that easy to continuously stay, but the continuity is important. So even for Samyak Darshan. So abhi, we may have the Bhed Gnan where at times we can distinctly feel the difference between the body and the soul, and this is not me, money is not me, the house is not me, and all that. But until it stays continuous with you, you don't accomplish that Samyak Darshan. So the continuity is very important. And that can be different for different people. Like they gave that example, Adinath Bhagwan, it took him so many years, and his son, first time he went into meditation in 48 minutes, he could stay continuously and got the Keval Gyan. So that time can differ for each person. Now, which one do you think applies the most to us?
Which one of what?
Which tap, which antar tap, and I mean, they all apply, of course, but which antar tap or bahya tap?
Probably Swadhyaya.
Yes. So who noticed the different parts of Swadhyaya? Can somebody repeat that?
I heard Nidhi ji say Swa Adi Aya, but I don't remember exactly.
So it is the study of self, right? And then it talked about 4 or 5 different ways of doing that. तो उसको हिंदी में बोलते हैं वाचना, प्रचना, परिवर्तना, आमनाय और धर्मोपदेश. So those are the 5 things that come under Swadhyaya. Okay. So what is vachana?
Reading.
Reading the Shastras, right? But vachana alone is not enough. If you read, if you are really interested, then when you read, you will have questions to clarify. So then asking questions is the next level of Swadhyaya. Then whatever you read, whatever you understood, you repeat. You try to further analyze, further detail, analysis. Then you keep that in your mind 24/7 and repeat. So, whatever we learn in a class, it should stay with you for the rest of the week. That is your time to contemplate on it, to try to put it in use in your day-to-day life. And then Dharmopadesh is like, if you find somebody interested who kind of wants to know any principle of Jainism, whatever you have learned, you can pass it along to someone else who may be interested. So that is important. Also, we can practice some of the outer taps. वो कौन से थे?
Fasting, Unodharita, Rasparithyag, those kind of things.
So chalo, fasting, not everybody's body will maybe cooperate in full 24, 36-hour fast. We can always do what do you call that? Rasparithyag. You give up some tasteful stuff, or you limit your eating. Suppose you think you get very full with 3 rotis, then you say, okay, I can manage with 2, and see how you feel.
That's a very good point, because हम हमेशा बोलते हैं कि वो इससे उपवास नहीं होता है, फिर एक आसना करना, ये करना.
Right, people make excuses. Oh, मुझे तो उपवास से सर दर्द हो जाता है. Then they don't want to do it.
But it's like anybody can do Unodhirita, anybody can do Rasparithyag.
Rasparithyag,
And those are the harder ones to do anyways.
Exactly, yes.
You can do the Vivikta Shayasana a lot.
What? What is that? What do you do for Vivikta Sannyasa?
Let's say like solitude and simple resting, right? All the time.
That doesn't mean watching TV though.
Oh no, I'm sure people could stay in Shavasana for a while and just relax, right? But actually, it's not as simple as that. But yes, if you could, so for example, 8 days of Paryushan. Let's say you go to job, let's say even that is allowed. You come home, then you just stay in one room and do Swadhyaya. Don't talk to your family, nothing. And I think in Vivikta Shayasana, you would have to sleep on the floor and all that, but that's okay. That's not that difficult to do. But yeah, so a lot of these taps can be done. Now, what is Kaya Klesh in our scenario? What do you think? How could we practice?
Bearing whatever circumstances come.
So let's say in the winter time, right? Your thermostat stays at 72.
So set it to 68, 65.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
Or even sometimes when you are in uncomfortable place, you don't have to complain. Even though
exactly.
Sometimes when you're not able to control it, or even if you're able to control it, just live with it, right? There's no reason you need to complain. You can bear it a little bit.
Exactly. So like, I remember we used to do, if we called some Pandit or something, and now everybody's in a room listening to this Swadhyay, and then there would be, I remember this was a while back. So this one lady would feel very, very hot. She kept going and turning up making it colder because she would feel extra hot. And everybody's like, no, we are freezing. So it's like, so either she would have to do this, what is that called? The Kaya Klesh, that she tolerates that little bit of extra heat, or everybody else would have to, tolerate the cold AC. So, yeah, so most people cannot. I mean, everybody is like struggling. I mean, these people who are feeling cold are complaining, and the lady who's feeling hot is complaining. And it's like, and nobody thinks that, like we are sitting here for Swadhyay, at least during this 1 or 2 hours that the Panditji is speaking, we can tolerate whatever it is, So, I mean, they're all, of course, they're for Muniraj, but they are also all applicable to us also. So,
right.
And I've noticed that like today, I'll tell you, we were out with a couple who has recently moved from Delhi just a couple years ago. He's a rheumatoid arthritis doctor, and so we are helping them kind of get acclimated with the lifestyle here. So for a long time, they were telling us they wanted to learn how to use the public transport, which we don't anyways use, but we just did this adventure today. We took them to downtown in the public, whatever bus, and showed them around in the subway and whatever, right? So I'm not like too thrilled about doing those things, especially in the cold time right now when it is in the 50s and 40s. And I was like, if it's windy and even if I have a coat on, I was like trying to wear my gloves and put a scarf around my nose, and these people from Delhi, they're fine. So so I was saying that yeah, we are spoiled in this country because we are so used to staying within that limited narrow window of temperature in the house. I don't work anymore, so I'm not forced to go out and park my car and walk in the cold, or all those habits are gone now. So that tolerance of cold, standing in the cold, in the wind, is sort of diminished now. Versus these people in India, in Delhi, I mean, nowadays there are heaters and whatever, but they were used to before there was no heaters. You
Yeah.
tolerated the 40-degree temperature also in the house. And
I just want to say one thing. We visited California one time, and this was maybe in December, and I took some, maybe one or two sweaters, but I felt more cold in California than I felt in Canada. So because
No,
they have single pane windows, they don't have
yeah, I know, I feel the same
and
way.
I was
You
like, oh
know,
my God, I should have brought my thick jacket. So even being in this winter, snowy weather, we are
yeah.
so like used to our heating systems here that we keep it to what we are comfortable with, right?
Yeah, even
So
when I go to my son's place, they don't even have like a, especially in downtown, they stay in town, and these
yeah.
old buildings, they don't have proper like central heating. There's like two heaters in the hallway which don't reach your bedroom properly. And I'm like, I need an electric blanket to sleep. I cannot sleep
Yeah.
in this.
I agree. The coldest I've ever been is in Delhi in December. Oh, matlab garami nahi ho
Oh,
sakta.
yes,
The
it is
cold gets in
very
your
cold.
bones.
Yeah. And to stay like that 24/7. Okay,
That's the
it's
thing.
one thing,
You don't have
you
a
know,
chance to get warm. So yeah.
yeah, and then that cold water, I know, I remember we used to go to Rajasthan in the winter time. I don't even feel like getting up and putting my hands in that cold water to even brush. So that was kaya klesh enough for me. So the point is that now, but I mean, knowing this, so if circumstances like that happen to us, then take it in a lighter manner that, okay, such circumstance has come. I don't need to get akul vyakul. Okay. So, yes, I mean, of course, if you can help it, help it. But when you cannot help it, what are you going to do? You can complain all you want, it's not going to change. So, you might as well learn to be peaceful about it.
Auntie, is kaya klesh also when you're sitting, let's say dhyan mein, and you sit in like padmasana or some difficult posture and your legs get really painful, but just to stay in that, right? And
But
bear
if
the
you're
pain.
staying in it and not being able to do the dhyan, then no.
I mean, but oftentimes, like for example, in Buddhist tradition, you do it and you have to move beyond that pain. The pain, you let it come and then you move beyond, right? So it's almost like a tool to go into dhyan. But
Yeah, okay. No, I don't think it's like that. Like when I did my Vipassana, okay, I have this problem of I cannot sit in one position. I like literally time myself, like beyond 20 minutes, I have to change. Palti maar ke बैठी हूँ, तो I'll turn my legs or what, something or the other. So I'm sitting in this Vipassana and I'm like, oh my God, my body just is not going to cooperate. There's no way I can even sit in one position, leave alone going in dhyan. So I kept twisting and turning every 20 minutes, whatever. But But it's the opposite, I think. It's not that you have to control your body to get in dhyan. It's when you are in dhyan. So one fine day when I did get into the dhyan, probably for an hour or two, and I didn't even realize, and my body didn't need to move.
Mhm.
So it's the other way around.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
same way here, when you are in the soul, that is the priority. Your body naturally does not want to move or doesn't need that comfort. So if you were in Padmasana or whatever asana, if you couldn't be in your dhyan, then you will feel that pain.
Mhm.
Versus if you would be in your soul, then you'd be in that Padmasana, which may be uncomfortable, but because you're in your soul now, you don't realize it.
Mhm.
So it's not like you have to force yourself to be in painful situation to get in dhyan. I wouldn't say that. Okay. So now Uttam Tyag we'll have to do next class, and then let's go to what is after that. Oh, Tyag is a long one. Akinchanya. So who is doing Akinchanya, Arunji?
I'm doing that.
Okay.
All right. So it's been a very interesting reading, going through the notes here from Dr. Bharat. He basically explains that Akinchana, of course, the literal meaning is non-attachment.
Mhm,
And he says, interesting observation that he makes is Akinchana and Brahmacharya are two sides of the same coin. And he says, knowing the conscious and blissful nature of the soul as to be the self and get wedded to it and absorbed and engrossed it is celibacy. So when you leave everything, all the attachments, what remains is the soul awareness and the soul existence. So that is what is both akinchana and also, if you look at it from another perspective, is brahmacharya. So that I found was a very interesting observation. So he basically goes on to say self-existence is brahmacharya and non-existence of other non-self things is akinchana.
mhm,
Now he also goes on to define that the opposite of akinchana is basically parigraha. So he goes in a lot of detail about explaining aparigraha.
mhm,
So essentially, akinchana dharma is largely explained through explaining aparigraha.
mhm,
He says these are of two types, like that we have seen in other explanations, also internal and external. So the internal ones, he says, is the misbelief, attachment, aversion, etc. These are called nishya parigraha. And the vyavahar parigraha, attachment to external belongs, etc., is vyavahar parigraha.
mhm. You can list at least names of the
Yeah,
internal.
I'm gonna get into
Yeah,
that.
okay. Mhm,
So he talks about internal parigraphs. He says there are 14 kinds. So I'm just going to give a quick overview. False belief, anger, pride, deceit, maya, greed, lobe, laughter, liking, disliking, lamentation, fear, disgust, male sex passion, female sex passion, and neutral sex passion. These are the 14 internal parigraphs he talks about. And he talks about 10 types of external parigraphs, which is fields or land, houses, silver, gold, wealth, grain, female servant, male servant, garments, and utensils. So this is how he gets into all the internal and external parigraphs.
mhm,
And then he goes on to explain so he said normally anger, pride, those type of things, we call them kashayas, but they're also parigrahas, essentially.
mhm.
So he calls it possession of passions. So possessions of passions, kashayas are also parigrahas according to him.
Because it's like anything we want to hang on to, right? We don't want to give up our
Exactly.
we don't want to give up our Maya like that.
Yeah. You made a very important point, and he gets into that a little more actually.
Yeah.
Explains it is quite nice.
Mhm,
Then he also goes on to explain hinsa and ahimsa. He's basically saying Manifestation of the feeling of delusion, attachment, aversion is named hinsa, and non-appearance or absence of attachment, aversion, delusion is ahimsa. So this basically is, he calls it, this is sum and substance of Jinagams. So important from that perspective. And he goes on to say, therefore, Akinchana Dharma is the supermost religion, according to him. Then it just goes on to talk about actually money. So he said money is not mentioned in the list of parigrahas, but a lot of times we sort of equate the parigrahas with money. And he goes on to explain that it's likely because money is always changing in value. So 100,000 rupees today will have different value, 10 years from now. So it's kind of a moving target. So therefore, it was not mentioned in the list. Then he also makes an interesting point is like for the Anuvratis, the small vow holders, we only talk about limits on the external possessions. And he raises the point about, can you talk about having limits on internal possessions, right? Either they are there or they're not there. So that was an interesting point he makes.
You want to get a sip of water or something, you can.
I've got different highlights. I'm just going through the key highlights and concepts. So another thing he says is he makes a distinction about possessing something and actually, having a desire for it. So he basically says that the feeling of possessing them and hoarding them is parigraha. So, and he goes on to say that even if you have gotten rid of those possessions, but you haven't gotten rid of a feeling of possessiveness, then it's not a true parigraha. At the same time, he goes on to explain that, okay, then that might be interpreted as that, well, I've let go of feeling of attachment to things, but I still have them. So is that okay? So he explains that is also not okay, because as you progress in different gunasthans, I mean, you can keep these possessions like till certain gunasthans, but beyond that, physical possessions also have to drop off.
Yes.
So he basically goes on to explain in one word, like, this object is mine. Having such a notion is actually parigraha. Then he talks about like attachment to the body itself. So getting rid of, I mean, this is also an attachment. But he goes on to explain that, body is something you cannot give up. Right? Even arhants, they have their bodies, like they're in 13, 14 Gunstan, but they still have their bodies. But they don't have that feeling that this belongs to me or I am the body, right?
Right. So the thing is, in that case, they have the body, but they're not afraid that if they lose it at any given point,
Exactly.
not attached to it.
Exactly.
That's the difference. Yeah.
Then there is some interesting discussion about a lot of people talking about socialism as a concept of aparigraya.
Take it from the
He says, no, that is not correct. I mean, we do talk about distribution of assets and those type of things, but still there is parigraya involved in it. And he makes a good point. He said socialist viewpoint is absolutely economical, whereas the viewpoint of aparigraha is absolutely spiritual. So he makes that key distinction.
Socialist, you're forced to. For example, if they charge you now instead of 40%, they start charging you 70% tax. What are you going to do? It's like forceful. Whereas aparigraha is not forceful. That is a mental state.
Then towards that, actually, he also gets into an interesting discussion about. So he talks about a person, who is well-to-do, is wealthy, he has a lot of good qualities, he has a lot of possessions, and he says, would you call him? And that's actually due to uday of the punya karma. But then he gets in interesting discussion that he says parigraha may be obtainable by the rise of punya karmas, but it is indeed pap. It is such a tree in which the seed sown was that of punya. The tree grown is of pap, which is vice, and the fruit grown are such that if eaten will cause death, that is lead to bondage of pap, inauspicious karmas, and if forsaken will lead to survival, that is will lead to bondage of punya or auspicious karma. So it's a bit of a vicious cycle that he talks about, which I thought was interesting.
So that is why your outlook changes. At like when you're younger, at one point when you didn't have enough or whatever you may call it, the importance of money was too much. Then you realize that, okay, it's only worth so much. It's no big deal, right? So
another thing he talks about is papi. So is papi, you are a papi because पाप कर्म का उदय हुआ है, you are punyatma due to uday of punya karma. So he says no, actually a sinner is a sinner because of doing pap karmas.
currently, yes.
So he goes on to explain, like, I mean, he gives an example, like if prostitutes or thieves amass a lot of wealth, they do not become punyatmas, they remain papis. So it's defined by what they actually do. So he's basically concludes by saying parigraha is the biggest sin, and akinchan, being devoid of all sorts of possession and false beliefs, important point to be noted, is the highest religion. So it's quite illuminating actually reading this.
Yes, it is. It is. And are you done with yours?
Sorry?
You're done with
Yeah,
what you
I'm done with this.
okay, good. So yes, I mean parigraha is a very important one for all of us to think, because it is one of those hidden sins, right? Nobody thinks going to a rich man's house or किसी पापी के घर जा रहे हो, ऐसा हम नहीं सोच सकते, right? ज्यादातर तो महिमा ही आती है, oh wow, he has such a big house, such a whatever, right? But it actually is. And अब तो मुझे यहाँ तक कि लगता है कि you should feel sorrowful for that poor guy क्योंकि they say कि जो आई डोंट नो शास्त्रों में आती है कि नहीं बात, पर एक तरह से इट्स लाइक विशिंग somebody बैड is कि उनको बहुत सारा धन मिल जाए, बिकॉज जब बहुत सारा धन मिल जाएगा तो क्या होगा, वो गलत काम करेगा, राइट? अब इन जनरल, आई मीन अदर देन पीपल हु आर अवेयर, उनकी बात छोड़ दो, अदरवाइज क्या होता है, जब गरीब थे तो अल्कोहल नहीं पी सकते थे, मीट नहीं खा सकते थे, बहुत सारी चीजें जो खराब चीज काम वो नहीं करने की हैसियत ही नहीं थी, तो ठीक है अपना सिंपल जीवन जियो. As the money increased, normally people start doing these bad things. So money is not always a good thing. I mean, if you look at your kids, right? हम तो चलो आए तो the first generation that came from India, they were little careful. They came with the value systems, and we have that attitude of not splurging, whatever the case may be. And then you see these kids that don't have to worry about savings, and they just splurge and waste at times, right? So when you see, I mean, I sometimes have to remind my kids that just because you can afford it doesn't mean you waste things, because wastage is eventually pap for you. अब आप अफोर्ड कर सकते हो कि सारे घर की लाइटें चालू रख लो, पर उसमें जो हिंसा हो रही है उसका पाप तो आपको ही लग रहा है. Just because you can afford that electric bill of keeping everything on should not be your parameter of whether you should leave things on or not. So, and this is very important because जब हम किसी को देखते हैं जो फेमस है और रिच है, we think पुण्यात्मा है. No, पुण्य का उदय है, but he's not पुण्यात्मा. Punyatma depends on what he does with what he got. Is he attached to it? Is he willing to easily let go of what he got? Is he, because now he has more power or money, whatever it may be, that he's gotten arrogant, he feels too high of himself, or decides to just waste wherever? So that will decide what next is coming to him. And usually it's a roller coaster. पुण्य के उदय में ज्यादा मिला, आपने पाप किए, फिर आप फिर नीचे जाओगे, फिर you know. So something to be very conscious about, that if you have more important that not be attached to it, because that could really take you in the wrong direction. Now,
money without wisdom is a very dangerous thing.
yes. And also, the poor people who don't have but are constantly wishing. दूसरों को देख के अरे मुझे ये होता था, मेरे पास भी ये होता. I mean, lot of people in general, let's say they are living comfortably, decent big house. Still, if they go to another friend, acquaintance, whatever, who has, let's say, double the size of the house. Now you could only do 40 people party in your house, and they can do 100, 200 people. They have such a huge basement. Maybe I should maybe get a better job, and I can also afford that. So think how our minds can go. So what is that? Or parigrah ki bhavna. Person is not satisfied with what he got. And unfortunately, the world teaches you that. Aim high, aim high to money is junk. Even we teach our children that get a raise, get a this, get a that. But no, ideally you want to teach your children, aim high towards Vitrartha, not towards money. Money comes with its own problems.
And this is why, Auntie, we give so much honor and respect to not just our Tirthankars, obviously, because they were kings and they left everything. But
Right.
even now you hear in India, very rich people take Diksha.
Yes.
And so it's like, in some ways, like kahawat hai ki it's easy to give up everything when you don't have anything, right? So jo log already bikari hai, wo Diksha, theek hai, it's still a big thing to take Diksha. But people who have everything in the world and then give it up, those are the people we really bow down to, because they have everything to lose and they are able to give it up, right? So
Exactly. और चलो आपके पुण्य के उदय से आपको मिल भी गया है, तो डोंट वैल्यू इट सो मच. सहज मीन्स बी नेचुरल. ठीक है, अब जो पुण्य से उदय से आ गया तो उसको आप फेंक नहीं सकते हो, पर उसमें ना ज्यादा प्राइड होना चाहिए, ना ज्यादा. और in the old days, the system was, now, like if people in India or wherever who are earning good money, I mean, all these youngsters now making good money, everybody's goal is what? Now I have money, let me travel here, let me travel there. Our generation में let me accumulate jewelry, let me accumulate diamond, let me accumulate this. उसके भी पहले वाले जो generation थे, they didn't do. उनका सेठ साहब बुलाते थे. सपोज गांव में कोई 2-4 वेल्दी लोग हैं, राइट? People used to turn to them to borrow money. If anybody needed, they would willingly give. with low interest or no interest. They would also be the ones who would be the big donors for any kind of good work, whether it was mandir building, whether it was any samajik karya. They would willingly share their wealth. And that is why they were respected. Not because they had money,
Mhm.
but because they were willing to share all this.
They knew how to use their money, and that's what they got respect from.
They were not, I mean, I even remember in the small town that my husband's family is from. So even the lady that would come to help, you know, in our house, she is equally respected. She would actually sit and eat with the bahu of the house. We never like differentiated that, that she's a servant and like we are the wealthy people like that. And, if she ever needed any help, she would feel comfortable asking from us, and we would easily give, without feeling that feeling of show off that, oh my God, we are helping this lady in need or like that. So that सहजता को हिंदी इंग्लिश में क्या बोलेंगे, like just being neutral about things. Okay, so you, because of some punya, you got money, but no big deal. Okay, whatever you have extra is okay to distribute. It's okay to share.
Yeah, one of the terms from Western philosophy is stoicism, right? So it's like you always maintain an even temperament. Kuch acha hua, bura hua, you're always the same.
Right, right. So, and like, not even that feeling of ki, oh my God, I have money, so now I was able to donate a lot. No, it's, you take it more as, because I got more, it is my duty to share with the society and the share with whoever is needy and all that. So,
But not with the feeling of doership. Otherwise, you get trapped.
yeah, it's your duty. So you're just doing it.
Yeah.
There's no pride in
You're not doing it. You're just a conduit for that money to go back into society, right?
So, and then the wants, like if somebody's poor, just because they don't have doesn't mean they're a parigrahi. Otherwise, all the poor people will have no parigrah in that sense because they have less. But no, they are also very parigrahi because
Because it's the bhav.
the bhav that they want, they wish they had, they wish they had. Or if we wish when we see somebody more than us, oh, somebody bought this car, oh, I wish I had it, or I wish I had that big house. All that is parigrah. So even if you physically don't have the stuff, but just wish for it, that also comes under the parigrah category.
With age, does this change? Like, I mean,
Yes, age, the importance does reduce because now you've seen the world and you kind of sort of understood the uh, when you're younger, there's a lot more desire to excel, to make more money and all those things. For example, in my morning class where there is a mix of students, I told you the youngest is 19 and the oldest is 73. So there, when I ask the question, the older people will say, yeah, we don't want any more money or whatever. We would not. So my question was like, if at work you were given a choice between getting a big raise versus getting extra vacation, which one would you choose? So all the older people said we'd rather have the more vacation. But the youngsters would say, no, we would rather have the more money. And that is appropriate. That is age appropriate, right? A younger person is not expected to not want to make money because they still have to live their life. They still have to raise their children, whatever it may be. So Jainism is not saying that, like, no, don't do your duties and suddenly give up everything. Not like that. But come to the senses where money is not the only goal you have. Whereas I will give sometimes examples of in my own class, the previous batch, there was somebody, she was very interested in the class. Okay, but then she stopped coming, then she would come again. And eventually she had to quit because she got some really good offer of some job that required her to work odd hours, like she may have gotten a company of Europe or US or something. Now she had to work longer hours and day and night and adjust the time. So poor thing had to give up the class. So that's when the whole class felt. Was that a good thing that happened to her or the bad thing that happened to her? So, so
Like in a way, you can ask, is it Punyoday or is it Papuday, right? So,
right. So,
so
so,
yes, so she
so the
got
class
money.
would definitely say it's a papu there because to get that little extra money, she had to give up
Give up something that is much more valuable,
Tattva which
right?
was
Yeah.
much more valuable.
Hmm. That's an interesting perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. So- And that's where you develop the correct sense of where to draw the line, where to understand the importance, of learning the nature of things versus money, and of course age plays a role, but still, I mean, if you have the correct understanding, then you would not go for the money when you firmly start believing that money will come if your punya is there. And I always give like my own example when my husband wanted to retire at 50 or even younger. At that time, I had not done much swadhyay. So my thinking always was like, my God, you're retiring so early. Our kids are not even done with college. And then he would say, why don't you calculate how much you would need for the rest of their life? And I'll make sure we have that much savings and I'll retire. And I would go like, how can I predict inflation? So you're asking a wrong question. I cannot tell you how much I will need. And this is too young to retire. So anyway, he retired after a little longer, but still earlier than the retirement age. And now I've come to realize that, oh, he might as well have retired whenever before 50 or whatever, whenever he wanted to, and it wouldn't have made any difference in our lives. So if the punyoda is there, your investments might do well, and you may still be earning as much as you did when you worked. And if the punyoda is not there, you could work very hard and lose money somewhere else. And that happens to people. I mean, there are doctors who are like busting their butt to, work so hard day and night, making so much money. And then they give their money to some investor, somebody to handle, and there he loses all their money. So poor, all this hard work goes to vain. Or if hard work is the only thing that would get you money, then there's all these laborers who are working so hard and still not making as much as the professionals. So obviously it's because of the punyodaya, not just labor. And those are beliefs that once you believe in it, then you're able to observe in your own life also that they actually do work that way. So because everybody who has money, I don't think it's correlated with how much work they put into it. So okay. So that was about parigraha. And the main thing is to not have those desires of having more and more and the attachment towards whatever you got. So easy to let go. I remember one incidence when like I was just newly learning, all these principles. And it was my son's graduation party and my brother and his wife had come. And I think my son had some really nice, expensive watch, whatever he had at that time. And my sister-in-law just said, "Oh, it's a very nice watch." And he like quickly took it off and says, "Okay, you can have it, mommy." So I was like, "Oh yeah, this is parigraha at this age." This guy just about to go to college, and it was so easy for him to give it up. So Anyway. And sometimes, we will observe, I mean, things in our own children or somebody else where they themselves they may not realize that they are behaving this way. It's easy for them to let go of things, but you can watch in them. You can observe. Okay, so let's move on to Uttam Brahmacharya. That's Amitji, you're doing that, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me get started. Okay, so firstly, it starts with the definition, right, of what is brahmacharya, right? So on again, right, on a real point of view, right, it is to live in or get absorbed in self. Self is also referred to as Brahma. That's why the name brahmacharya means the one who gets absorbed in its own self.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, as the other uttamas, right, this also is part of the conduct, right? And as others, right, why uttam is because it comes with right belief, knowledge, right, and then the right conduct. So again, it will be classified from a conduct standpoint, but the conduct comes only when you have the right belief, and then followed by right knowledge and the right conduct.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Then a real point of from real point of view, it will always be to be immersed in one's soul or to know one's soul, right, and be self-absorbed in it. But from a Vyavahar standpoint, right, this basically the chapter basically talks a lot about how it is being very general, right, by everyone. Everyone says that the Vyavahar Brahmacharya is nothing but giving up the copulation, right, that is abstaining from one aspect of touch sense, right. However, not all only particular copulation activity, right, is what is being referred, right, in a general sense, right. However, one can experience touch sense through other ways also, right. So you could have like cold, hot, right, different texture, different weight, right. Then AC, or you need some cushion, is all also a pleasure of touch sense. Right. So we do not consider the complete enjoyment of touch sense as destroyer of celibacy, but only one form, that is the copulation or the coition. So that's not correct, right? It is actually right the destroyer of all senses, right? So when we move away from all senses, is what is the true Vyavahar Brahmacharya. Right. So soul is indulging in any so the jeeves, right? Basically, when I say soul is jeev is indulging in any objects of all senses, then it is not self-absorbed. So in a way, right, when you are not following your senses, or you have won or conquered your senses, right, and you go inwards, right, that's what brahmacharya is all about. Right. And in text like Samaisar, right, they have spoken about Kam Bhog, right? Kam is nothing but touch and taste, and Bhog is the other senses. Right. However, in Vyavahar, right, Kam Bhog is generally attributed to only the copulation activity, right, and one refrains from it, but enjoys pleasure of other senses. So, in short, right, everyone has a general opinion that enjoying the other pleasure of the senses is fine, right, and only one particular activity, which is the copulation activity, if we refrain from it, right, then we call it as brahmacharya, which is not correct, right. Uh, Also, in another sense, right, some people just give up all five senses, right, but they are not self-absorbed, and that is also not uttam brahmacharya, right. So in touch sense, ideally, right, then the author goes ahead, right, and talks about the touch sense. The touch sense basically covers all the five senses, right. So touch sense is something which is throughout your body. It's not restricted to only one portion, right, or one particular space point,
Mm-hmm.
right. So in many places, right, or in many contexts, right, acharyas are mentioning, saying that brahmacharya is all about giving up the touch sense, they actually mean all five senses, because touch sense is something which is across the body, right? And again, in other words, we can say that when souls who do not possess any touch sense, right, those are Bhagwan, the Siddh Bhagwan. They are true celibates because they do not even possess a touch sense. Right. Some may also called as celebrate since no touch and hence they can attain liberation, but they are not self-absorbed. Right. So one-celled organisms, right? Why are they not celibate? Because they do not possess any touch, right? And why can't they attain liberation? If they do not possess any touch sense, then they are like Siddha Bhagwan. But we need to understand that they are not self-absorbed, right? They are not self-realized, or they are not inwards, right? Focusing on their own self. Right. So that's why the one cell organisms would not be called as the one that can attain liberation or celibate. Right. Another thing that it mentions is, as I mentioned earlier, all senses are located at different space point, but touch is present all across. Right. Touch sense is also something which is anadi anant, right? That is beginning of time, right, and cannot be abandoned. Right. Again, right, it re-emphasizes that we have spoken a lot about the Vyavar Brahmacharya, but the state of self-absorbedness, right, along with renunciation, right, of all the five senses is Uttam Brahmacharya. Right. Then again, in another way, it says that sense and mind are actually hindrance, right, to self-absorbedness in the soul. Right, because senses are windows to the external world. Senses are the reason, right, we are kind of deflected, right, towards the outer world, and that prevents us to go inwards to ourself, right, and thereby follow the path of liberation. Right. So commencement of the religion, or we can say that for us, the dharma has started only when we conquer the sense. And that's why the literal meaning Jinendra, as we say, Jai Jinendra, Jinendra is nothing but conquering your senses. Right. It then also talks about the debate, right, of some people say that brahmacharya actually showcases women in good and not, it doesn't showcase women in good light, and it is advocating men to be superior. But that's not correct. It actually is both ways, right? It's feeling of sensual pleasure in the mind of woman for men is also included, right, as a part of brahmacharya. Right. This, let me see if I missed something. Yeah. So overall, if I have to summarize the entire thing, right, from a Nischay standpoint, right, focusing on one's soul and being absorbed in it is the real celibacy. And right, that is, you're not basically tuned to your senses, right, and you're looking inwards. That's the real brahmacharya. Right, from a Vyavar standpoint, it is not only about giving up one activity of copulation or coition, right? It's actually abstaining from all aspects of all senses, not only touch sense, right? So giving up all the senses is what you will call it as Vyavar Brahmachari. Yeah, that's everything.
Right. So in society, brahmacharya is kind of taken in a very, very limited sense. Celibacy is the only thing, even acharyas, sadhu, when they talk about, they will give you the celibacy vrat and all those things, in fact, they call it Sheel vrat. Whereas actually my older son's name is Sheel, and Sheel actually means virtuous. And, in India, they've heard this Sheel vrat as in that, and my sister-in-law is like, how come you named like that? I said, it's because you guys have heard the word Sheel as in the wrong context. It actually means virtuous. It means all the virtues of the soul. It's not just celibacy. So it's very misunderstood and mispropagated also. because every time they talk about brahmacharya vrat, they're only talking about celibacy. Nobody talks about brahmacharya actually means being with the soul, and which has a lot broader meaning than just celibacy. So in the book, I think it talks about any kind of senses, whether good listening, good visual, whatever, all that is opposite of brahmacharya. So being attached to karnendriya ka vishay, chakshuindriya ka vishay, granendriya ka vishay, all that comes under that. So and that's why he's given all these arguments about ekendriya, and otherwise they would all be called brahmacharis, which is obviously not the case. So yes, it's in that sense, it opens your eyes towards what is the prevalent meaning of brahmacharya versus what it actually is. And also the sadhu bhagavans, yes, so there was something we have done nishchay, well, no, we haven't done that yet. Okay, so there is when we get to the topic of nishchay and vyavhar in more detail, we will learn about 8 different 4 different vyavhar types and 4 different nishchay types. So उसमें आता है कि actually तो it's the state of soul, then whatever we bhav we get because of that is vyavhar, brahmacharya, and then what happens with the body kriya is upchar brahmacharya. So because you want to be with your soul, your bhav becomes mand kashay, that I don't want to be involved in sensual pleasures. And then you take vows towards that I am going to limit where I go, what I see, what I hear, what, or including celibacy and all that, is only upchar se brahmacharya. So none of that is actual brahmacharya, is being with the soul. So that is kind of the categorization of what is actual, what is vyavhar, and then what happens with the pudgal, because upchar means it's outside of your soul. So whatever is done by your body is all upchar. It's not even part of your soul.
Right.
So that's how, so then like when we look at things that way, we understand where it has to start. It has to start with the soul, and the rest just happens.
But Auntie, even what you said to that point, even but in Vyavhar, to abstain from stri or purush, it's important, because you cannot say that, oh, Chakravarti 96,000 wives rakhe bhi, then they would, because they're not into that, they are still brahmachari, because Vyavhar se brahmachari rehna zaruri hai, right? You cannot just be nishchay se. It has to be both, right?
It has to be both, yet no. So here is the difference. In Chakravarti's bhumika, Chakravarti, who is Samyak Drashti, okay? तो सम्यक दृष्टि जीव की मान्यता पक्की है कि this is not me, this is my circumstances is not me. उसके पुण्य का इतना तीव्र उदय होता है, from which he gets all this luxuries or 96,000 raniya and all that thing. And it's not like he's celibate, he is actually being with all the wives also. But in his Shraddha, he is not with them. So yes, that is true, that in spite of not being in Vyavhar, he's still not considered to get that dosh, because his manyata is right. His belief is correct.
But is he considered brahmachari then? बिकॉज व्यवहार में तो बिकॉज ये बुक में ऐसे लिखा है कि वो स्पेशली वो एक एग्जाम्पल दिया है कि निश्चय में ब्रह्मचर्य रहने से फिर 96,000 पत्नियों के रहते चक्रवर्ती भी ब्रह्मचरी नहीं होते और व्यवहार से केवल स्वस्त्री स्वस्वेदन त्याग रूप व्यवहार ब्रह्मचर्य ही होते। तो उसमें खास वो एग्जाम्पल दिया कि वो बोले कि दैट व्यवहार से भी ब्रह्मचर्य होना जरूरी
होना
है
चाहिए,
इसमें।
that is true.
Yes,
But
yeah.
there is also a story that comes, trying to think, yeah. Okay, so there's this story about there is two shishya जो कि गुरु एक, so शिष्य जो कि ब्रह्मचर्य वाले होने चाहिए, साधु, राइट? आई थिंक इट्स अ हिंदू स्टोरी बट इट अप्लाइज हियर कि वो दो थे and they're walking and they saw this woman drowning. So the natural reaction is, one of the sadhus goes and helps the lady not drown, pulls her out, whatever needed to be done, he does. Now, okay, he does that and now they're going back to the guru, right? So that guy in that instant saved the lady and came back and forgot about it and went on with his way. And then they go to the guru, and this other shishya who did not go to save the lady, he waits for a little while thinking that this guy who touched the female will ask pardon from the guru, because they are not supposed to touch, right? The sadhus have to have brahmacharya vrat. Now, again, it's in the Hindu context, so don't take it in the Jain context, but still. So the second one complains to the guru that this guy, he touched the lady and he still hasn't come and asked you for pardon. He created a sin. So the guru's reply was that he touched the lady, but that lady didn't come to his mind. That the lady is still sitting on your mind. So you are the one who need the prayashchit, not the other one.
Yeah.
So it also has to do with the mental state.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's both, but you see how in this case he is not getting the path of kind of not following the brahmacharya.
Yeah, उसने हाथ लगा के तो भी already छोड़ दिया, और
Right.
जिसने हाथ नहीं
दिमाग में भी
लगाया,
नहीं थी वो.
he's still
He
stuck
just
on.
reactionally did that, saved somebody's life, didn't care what it was, female, male, and he was done with it. And the other guy is in constant thoughts of that lady.
There's a similar story, just very quickly, about Tulsidas, and the story was sometime, they said his mind was always on Supreme all the time, like never unwavering, like that. So somebody asked, well, but he has children. So how did he have children if his mind is always on the Supreme? He said his body, the body did the duty that the householder had to do, but the mind never wavered. The mind was always fixed on that. So that kind of separation of that Atma and Sharir, right, in a sense?
Right. And that is the difference between, so after Samyak Darshan also, so that's why in Jainism we differentiate the Shraddha from Charitra. Okay. So, but Charitra is also needed to become Keval Jnani. But for Samyak Darshan, the Charitra, complete Charitra is not needed. So Samyak Drashti can still have family, can still have parigraha, all those things, because he has not reached that stage of charitra yet. But the belief is still corrected.
And after all, Samyak Drishti is only fourth or fifth Gunastan anyway, right? There's still so many Gunastan to go.
And then as your charitra improves, you're gradually getting in the upper Gunastan. So in that sense, yeah, we have to understand in the real sense, brahmacharya, number one, that it's all five senses, not just the skin sense, not just the celibacy related. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And the first step is to have our Shraddha correct. And then Charitra follows.
Yeah.
So
one thing, just with the same thing that what Amit just said right now, that वो जो चार इंद्रियों के बारे में कि चार इंद्रिय खंड खंड है, means जैसे आपके आँख, नाक, रस and कान, पर स्पर्शेंद्रिय अखंड है. So and उसका जो रिलेशन बताया कि वो आत्मा के प्रदेश के जितना ही है, उसका क्षेत्र और सब. So जो that was a very good analogy. I liked it. So I thought I could share it. कि आत्मा के प्रदेश का आकार एवं स्पर्शेंद्रिय का आकार बराबर है, एक सा है, जबकि
Yeah.
बाकी इंद्रियों के साथ ऐसा नहीं है.
Yeah, they are limited to
Right.
certain.
And the example they give with आत्मा का प्रदेश is कि आत्मा का गुण is that जिससे भी प्रत्येक जीव में अपने देह के अनुरूप आकार धारण कर लेता है. So अगर हाथी के जीव में गया तो हाथी का साइज बन जाता है,
हो
और
जाएगा.
चींटी के इसमें. एंड सेम थिंग, एग्जैक्टली द सेम वे, स्पर्शेंद्रिय भी वो सेम ही है कि हाथी में जाता है तो इतना बड़ा स्पर्श होता है,
इतना बड़ा
और
space, right,
चींटी में इतना कम हो जाता है, राइट. Whereas the other ones, like जो आँख कान नाक रस है, वो जरूरी नहीं है सब में रहना. बिकॉज कभी कभी आप बिना कान के रहते हो, बिना नाक के, like बिना
हाँ,
आँख के रह सकते हो. So
हाँ.
that was a good analogy that I thought was a good one.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
definitely very, very nice. Yes. So, and then the practical examples of Uttam Brahmacharya जो देते हैं कि पर स्त्री सेवन, extramarital affairs, whatever else, all those are to be. Now, okay, the other question you had, Dipali, was व्यवहार भी जरूरी है और उपदेश भी व्यवहार का ही दे सकते हैं. तो उसका एक और रीजन है. ओके, सो यस, वी कैन से सम्यक दर्शन एटलीस्ट मान्यता सही है एंड चारित्र फॉलोज, दैट शुड बी द नॉर्मल व्हाटएवर. बट डज दैट मीन कि अच्छा अभी मेरे पास तो सम्यक दर्शन नहीं है तो आई कैन जस्ट गो वाइल्ड डू व्हाटएवर आई वांट? नो. सो उपदेश व्यवहार पालन का दिया जाता है बिकॉज टू रिड्यूस योर कषाय. सी अदरवाइज वी आर वेरी तीव्र कषाई जीव. तो जब आप संयम फॉलो करते हो इवन बिफोर सम्यक दर्शन, आपकी तीव्र कषाय मंद कषाय में कन्वर्ट होती है. और मंद कषाय जब जीव होता है तो उसका मन करता है कि वो तत्व ज्ञान समझे, नेचर ऑफ थिंग्स समझे. तो उसके लिए उपदेश हमेशा व्यवहार चारित्र का दिया जाता है. आप मंदिर जाओगे, आप उपाश्रय जाओगे, आप थोड़े religious activities में लगोगे. So like all of you who wanted to come to this class, your kashai somehow went from tivra kashai to manda kashai, which made you even feel like coming here.
Yeah.
See, all the tivra kashais don't feel like that. So yes, normally tattva gyan, charitra should follow after tattva gyan, but it is okay to have charitra before tattva gyan also, because that initial helps in getting your kashaya manda, which becomes instrumental in at least going towards tattva gyan.
Correct. Yeah. So sometimes when we say that, oh, like, that person is doing upas, but उनका मन तो है नहीं, वो तो दिन भर वही सोच रहे कि मैं कल क्या खाऊंगा, पारने में क्या करूंगा, preparation कर रहे. But it's okay. You know what? Sometimes that might lead to a small percentage even in that 24 hours. Maybe वो 10 minutes
Exactly.
भूल गए
And
वो.
more chances of that person possibly now wondering what is dharma and coming towards
Correct.
studying
So,
scriptures or
yeah,
yes,
that's
finding.
the example of, like, you could have the charitra and then follows by the conduct and the belief.
Exactly. And in some ways, unfortunately, what happens in the society is that are not wrong in only talking about kriya because their hands are tied. They see these people once in a while, sadhus are roaming around. So they don't know what the level of the people is, right? So they want to get them started with doing something. Ideally, when they give that kind of advice, that do vrat, do upvas, give up this, give up that, they should also give advice of getting tattva gyan. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen enough. So then people end up like believing only kriya as dharma, and they don't even realize that that is not real dharma. Dharma is understanding tattva gyan, vastu swarup, and being with your soul. So sort of that problem unfortunately exists in the society. And honestly no fault of anybody, I would say, but it just is like that. Or maybe the sadhus could do a little better job of propagating more tattva prachar in with the kriyas.
I think, ma'am, I think what you said is so correct. Because they are only concentrating on the vyavahara,
Yeah,
there is lack of tattva dhyana. Now people are like treating them as a god. Now, even
unfortunately,
yeah,
yes,
in
because they
South,
don't know any better.
yeah, in
So
South
to
and
them,
Karnataka,
हमारे guru ने जो कह दिया
yeah,
बस, that's it. But they don't understand that the guru is also not perfect.
yeah. And I do see that Digambar Munis, they are like felicitating, they are throwing flowers and they are whatnot. They are all doing so many things because Shravakas been taught with less on the Tattva Jnana, more on the
And
Vyavahara.
it's like unfortunate because Shravak also has duties to keep the Muni on the right path of the
Yeah.
true Muni Dharma, but the Shravak themselves don't study what the true Muni is. So they
But
don't know, and then they don't know how to, they're taking the Munis in the wrong direction by doing all these things.
but also they themselves are not putting an effort in learning at all dharma, and then whatever the preacher says, they and the good thing is that people do want to follow something, so that's a good thing that they want to follow.
Which is good that their
Yes.
kashai is manda. So that time, if
Yeah.
they were led to the right thing, that
Yeah.
okay, read these books, go towards tattva gyan, understand the nature of true nature of things, that would help people a lot more than just doing the. I mean, it's unfortunate, but there are sadhus who are so busy that in their thing, so many mass and so many 30 upvas, so many 8 upvas, so many this, that. I mean, they're just trying to get fame for themselves.
But you know what I feel like, and I know Bahubali ji, what you're saying. There are so many people that actually follow, some sort of like preacher or somebody. But I also know some of the people who are actually following, but they're doing with such pure heart, such pure
Yes.
mind
they
that
the
even though,
कषाय मंद है उनकी,
yeah, I feel
क्योंकि
like
वो
even though,
उनको
right,
समर्पण इतना ज्यादा है साधु
yeah,
के प्रति.
या उनका इतना समर्पण है वो बंदे के बारे में, वो उनको सही मानते हैं, लाइक दे जस्ट बिलीव दैट दैट इज द ट्रूथ, दैट उनकी भावना बहुत सही है, राइट भावना है. यस, मे बी दे आर नॉट फॉलोइंग द राइट पर्सन, बट दे आर डूइंग इट विद
And that is unfortunately
प्योरनेस.
the unfortunate part that uh, that um, um, that it would be nice if those sadhus would guide these people in the right direction
Wow, it's the
and
loss
not
of the sadhu.
accept that I know it's, I mean, it's easy to talk about, but we don't know what circumstances, what really happens. But I would hear things about वो महाराज साहब के लिए लोग केक लेके आ गए, this and that, and then you wonder why would the Maharaj Sahib allow those kind of things, but
Oh,
then who
what
knows,
if,
there's another side where the Shravaks are doing it, then Maharaj Sahib had nothing to do with it. There can be so many possibilities.
I know, but auntie,
It's becoming a blind belief. I'll give an instance where in my family, my wife's family, my wife's father, my wife's mother's mother brother is became Digambar Muni.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so their family, his brothers were very rich and all. So
Mm-hmm.
he was in ashram where is Digambar Muni. They bought a new vehicle. So their blind belief is so
Who bought a new
deep.
vehicle? The sadhu?
No, the sadhu's family.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, they actually make him sit in the front seat and took the photo. They made the Digambar Muni sit in the front seat of that jeep or whatever they bought and took the photo.
But the Muni is not supposed to do
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So it's been so like convoluted
So that's
between.
the whole point, is
Yeah,
that unfortunately the Shravaks are also spoiling the Muni.
yeah. It's
Because,
like it's going
yeah,
both way. So
yeah,
I mean,
of
it's
course,
one of an instance, but I'm not saying everybody's like that. But it is.
right. So yeah, it's like you just don't know really where the fault lies. I mean, some people will say, okay, the Shravaks are doing it, so sometimes the Muni has to
Yeah.
kind of go with the flow. Just, you don't know.
Actually, and just to on the same thing, that in India, I know that there are some cities and towns, especially I know about Maharashtra because that's where I'm from. There are like especially Manmad, वहाँ पे सिर्फ ज्ञान गच मारासा ही आ सकते हैं. So ज्ञान गच मारासा, these people that are in the town, they have actually read a lot more scriptures, shastra, and all that. So they're more following and they're more following the Jainism as per what's written in the text and all that.
That's
Whereas,
where my husband was going to take Diksha at one time
oh,
in
in
the
Manmad or in Gyan Gacha. Yes, yeah. Whereas
in
in the
Shwetambar tradition, that is like the most knowledge,
correct,
like
yeah,
Most
focusing,
austere.
more
but
strict and everything.
very strict following also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas in some other punts, there isn't that, and there are some towns actually they don't even call Gyan Gach Marasa because they themselves
Yeah,
are not
because they
strict
cannot
enough.
follow so much.
They
Yes.
cannot follow, so they don't actually invite. So it's like a vicious cycle. You never can have these good marasa, so they can teach you, and
Yeah.
then so people who have that, their towns actually just always will have, like my mama's place. They always have Gyangach marasas in Bid, so they follow in that fashion, right? So yeah.
So see what happens is, so this is what I'm saying. So it starts with the Muni. So जो Muni इतना follow करते हैं, फिर उनके followers भी वैसे ही. Like my sister-in-law would always have वो जो क्या बोलते हैं ना, राख वाला धुआं का पानी in the
Yeah.
house. The food will always be cooked, on the timing based on sunrise and sunset, because they will not take food from a family who is not themselves following those rules.
Yeah.
So automatically, the followers also end up following all those things. Now, in Gujarat and certain areas where the population wants to do more maja or whatever the case may be, you don't find houses that will cook before sunset. There are houses where the Mara Sahib would try to go to Gochari and the food is not even cooked. Versus if the Mara Sahib would say that no, they cannot take it, then there has to be followers. And I mean vice versa. Some people will say कि भाई Mara Sahib को खाना ही नहीं मिलता है, तो उनको फिर कुछ और खाना पड़ता है before sunset when they follow. So it goes both ways. I mean, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that is why, so for us, what is important to understand is that it is important to get the knowledge firsthand for each person. It's their own responsibility. We cannot worry about what goes on in the world. There's always going to be good and bad, no matter where we are, which time we are in. Even during Ram's time, there was good and bad, and Mahavir's time, there was good and bad. But each soul is responsible for its own doings. So
I
we
think
are here to get the Tattva Gyan and
Yeah.
understand the nature of things.
Sometimes it is kind of like a bad karma for the whole population. I think you could go to the Karnataka, there is one Dharmasthala, there is one
Yeah, I've
Virendra
been
Hegde, you
there.
heard about that? That
Yes,
is
I
totally
met him.
Yeah,
I met him
there
personally.
is totally like the I mean, he is he maintains both of them. Like Manjunatha is the avatar of the Shiva, and then
Yeah,
there
I
is
know. The
Digambar.
funny thing is he is Jain and he follows
Yeah.
this. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so it is how do the people what people need to believe? I mean, you go to Dharmasthala, they go to the Manjunatha and beg for all the bones and everything, and go to the Bahubali and then ask about Vitrag. I mean, so much of confusion it is. I mean, see, you imagine like everybody
The
follows.
problem is this, okay, they don't understand the perspective. So this
Yeah.
guy, his thing, Hegde, was his generations. I can't remember how many generations he said that this Manjunath, whatever thing is, the demigod, has blessed this family to have so much wealth, to always have, I think they feed, I don't know, thousands and millions
Yeah,
of
yes,
people every
always. Yeah.
day, and they have a lot of charitable institutions. So it's possible that some devta or somebody is becoming nimit in this family, having the wealth as long as they are donating, right? But that, even though that can happen, that is not to be the belief of the janta.
Yeah.
So he still believes in Jainism, but according to him, because his family has gotten this boon, that they have to follow the custom. It's kind of
Bollywood.
weird.
Yeah,
So
what was the name of that? You said in Dharmasthal or something?
Hegde. In Dharmasthal is in
Virendra
Karnataka.
Hegde. His name is
Yeah.
Virendra Hegde.
Oh, Virendra Hegde, and he's
Yeah,
in
so I
Dharmasthal.
had gone in this Sangh where, because we were so many people, there was like 2,000 people in a train. We had gone to this Sangh of all the Bahubali statues in the India, or they're primarily in the South India. So we went to Dharmasthal, and this Hegde was invited as, at one of the things. And I mean, I didn't know who he was until that event. And it was quite interesting as to for how many generations they have had so much wealth that they can feed so many people and have so many hospitals. And so he's like worshipped like God. Every store you go there or hotel you go there, his picture is there. So yeah, it was interesting. Anyway, so looks like we are not going to get to. I was hoping to start that chapter 6, but that's okay. Let's finish with Shamavani with Nidhi. You have it ready, right?
Kshamavani.
Mhm.
Let me start with what we say in Shamavani. Khamemi savva jivanam savve jiva khamantu me mitti me savva bhuesu varam macham na kenvi. That is, I grant pardon to all living beings, and I seek pardon from all living beings. May all living beings forgive me, and I am friendly towards all living beings, and inimical, that is, verbhav, towards none. So by giving up enmity, forgiving all, we resolve to forsake anger. This forgiveness day, that is Shamavani, is basically the combination of all 10 religions. It is a beautiful conclusion to the lakshan dharma. So by giving up enmity, by forgiving all, we resolve to forsake anger. By seeking forgiveness, the pride, passion is forsaken in intent. By being friendly towards all, encourages straightforwardness and elimination of deceitfulness. And thus, Shama Divas or Shama Vani is inclusive of all 10 religions and indicative of emergence of perfect serenity within ourselves. Whereas seeking forgiveness and forgiving others appears to be between two living beings, in fact, it is a personal and independent activity. Shamavani is a religious disposition that does not need either cooperation or acceptance or permission of another. One can forgive even if forgiveness is not sought. This will only benefit the forgiver, who will get rid of the ensuing anger, and likewise asking forgiveness benefits the seeker in terms of getting rid of pride, haughtiness, even if forgiveness may not be granted by the other. So on the occasion of Shamavani, we forgive all living beings and seek forgiveness from all living beings, and thus inculcate Uttam Shama Martha Varja, etc. in our code. In this, it has been defined like Ari Mitra Mehal Masan Kanchan Kanch Nindan Sutikaran Argha Vattaran Asi Praharan Me Sada Samtadharan. This is in the Chatwi Dal by Pandit Daulat Ramji, which means ki we should be equanimous with Shatru and Mitra and other things. Acharya says ki that is why Acharya grant pardon to all living beings from their side without waiting for being approached by the other living beings for pardon. They seek pardon from all without entertaining the doubt whether anybody will grant them pardon or not. And in this way, inculcate supreme forbearance, modesty, and other 10 religions in the inner self. And it is beautifully reflected in the Upsarg of Muni Parshvanath by the Jeev of Kamat, and Upsarg being like when Upsarg was being inflicted on Muni Parshvanath by the Jeev of Kamat, and he was being saved by, so to speak, saved by the Rendra and Padmavati. Muni Parshvanath was equanimous towards both. He was not he was feeling equanimity towards both the saver and the inflictor of the upsarg. Likewise, Shamavani can be seen the disposition of Muni Maharaj, who forgives identical blessing to King Shrenik and Queen Chelna, irrespective of their actions. So Raja Shrenik had put a dead snake around the neck of a Muni Maharaj, and Chelna, the queen of Raja Shrenik, had removed that dead snake upon witnessing that it has been put around the neck of the Muni Maharaj. And the Muni Maharaj was equanimous towards both. He was not in favor of Chelna or averse to Raja Shrenik. So that is what Shamavani is encourages us to be like. So it says seeking and granting forgiveness are noble state of mind that lighten the heart and dissolve enmity, bringing supreme peace. Both, in fact, reflect the soul's inner serenity. And at last but not the least, the ignorant soul, through countless lives, has begged pardon of others and forgave others, but never has it turned inward, never sought forgiveness of itself, nor granted forgiveness to itself. Hence, the self remains bound in endless sorrow. By neglecting and ignoring and being apathetic towards self and indulging in sensual slavery through countless lives, this ignorant soul has committed great offenses, sins against itself, for which the ignorant soul is slave to suffering and pain for endless time. To harbor disregard and apathy towards one's soul is infinite anger towards it. The only remedy is to forgive your own soul, ask forgiveness from it. Only then you will come to know and recognize it and immerse into it. True forgiveness is realizing one's own fault. So true forgiveness or Nishchay Kshamavani is only to get awakened towards the soul when the realization arises, then naturally, along with forgiveness of the soul, gentleness, humility, and expression of modest speech are also awakened. As such, Vyavhar Shamavani on its own evolves by, Nishchay Shamavani happens, then Vyavhar Shamavani will on its own evolve within ourselves because of subsidence of the passions like anger, pride, haughtiness, deceitfulness, and all those passions by taking shelter in self.
Very good. So, of course, Kshamava is very important topic. We all, at some point or the other, have our own aggressions. And when you truly understand the Vastuka Swarup nature of things, you understand that it is important to forgive and forget. And that's the only way to finally cut out the bondage. Somebody could do bad to you, you revenge, you do bad to them, and vice versa, and it can go on and on and on for multiple lives. We don't know ourselves how many people we probably are doing that, and that's why we have so many connections. So many people come in our circle. There's always some good or bad connection with people. And you don't want to continue that. You want to now, like, equanimously just resolve with anybody and everybody. Only then your circle of, see, the more attachments, the more connections you have, the more births you have to continue taking to resolve those connections. So now, with the true understanding, when you realize that this is really keeping me in this world, then it's easy to let go. If somebody has to break that chain, unless you break that chain, you cannot possibly go to moksha, you cannot possibly get samyakdarshan. If you keep thinking that, oh, somebody is doing bad to me, until you take the responsibility for your own self, you are actually being bad to your own self. And that's why they say, Pehli kshama aap apne aap se mango. That I have not been forgiving and good to myself. You know, they say, when do you not talk to someone? When you're upset with someone, right? You don't want their company. You don't want to be with them. And that's how we all behave with our own self. If we don't want to be with ourselves, with the soul all the time, guess what? It's like being angry at our soul. And that's why they say the first forgiveness you should ask is with your own soul. We have not been fair to our own self, not interested in our own self enough. And when we understand that it's just me and everything else is doesn't matter, it's easy to let go of other people's bad things towards you. So, Bahubali, you're trying to say something on
Yeah,
mute.
so like sometimes we avoid people in such a way that we do not even think that they exist. Similarly, we also.
Exactly. That's what we are doing to ourselves.
Yeah.
As if we don't exist.
Yeah.
We are always with this everything other than me world.
Yeah.
And not taking the time to be with myself. In a marriage, if the spouse each other don't spend time enough, the one is always क्या बोलते हैं इंग्लिश में नाराज को not angry, but what do you call that? I can't come up with the word. Anyway, so the other spouse who is not getting the time feels left out, lonely, whatever the case may be. And that's what we are doing to ourselves. And really, what should matter? It's just you who is going alone when you're dying. Nobody else. Not your wife, not your spouse, not your children, not your wealth. Nothing is going to come with you. And that's the one we neglect the most. There's something really to ponder upon. And until we get that, in fact, some people say, like, visualize your death every day. Then you will realize what should be the most important thing to you.
Or they say even 5 times a day in Buddhism. Keep visualizing constantly. Keep always that remembrance that you will die.
Yeah. And I mean, there's this Panditji in Jaipur. He says, every day I bring that scene in front of me, that I'm laying dead, my wife is crying, my children are crying, the rest of the crowd is there with a sad face, but yet people are just chatting amongst themselves. And then in a few days, like, everybody forgets me.
Mm-hmm.
So really, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I lived all my life for all these people, ignoring myself. And what do I get? Just a few days of crying, and that's it. So really something to think about. What should be the most important to you? And here people brag about, I mean, not just brag about, but like, I am doing all this for my family. It's my duty. Oh my God, yes, you're doing all your duties, and all the sins you create in the process are only thing that's going with you. No spouse is going with you, no children are going with you, no house is going with you. Only the karmas that you build, accumulate in the process are going with you.
That's the story of Valmiki, right? And Ramayana.
Yes. Yeah, when he went and asked the family, hey, I'm creating all this chori and sin to feed you guys. Are you coming with me?
They said no.
Nope.
They said that's your duty. We're not taking your sins.
Right.
Yeah.
And no, it is not his duty to get money by wrong means. We should not take it as our duty. So our first duty should be towards our soul, and then everything else should follow. So, and why we need to be reminded every week, every day? Because this attachment, the moha, has been with us for anadi past. So it is like swimming against the flow of the river. And, we spend infinite past encouraging the more, So now, how much time we need to undo that? And a lot of times people think, oh, I hear all these lectures and I go to all these swadhyayas, but then, nothing changes in my life. Well, who is responsible? You just heard the swadhyay and never put it into practice.
Amna.
So until you contemplate and make it your own, the swadhyay also doesn't mean much. It just becomes a kriya. And that is why we try to give examples, make you guys give your own examples, so that it becomes part of you, rather than just something you heard and okay, now I just know. Knowing is not enough. Making it your own is what is needed. It should be part of you. It should be with you day and night. So, okay, so we are out of time. Next class, Dinesh Burarji will do his thing on Sanyam, and then we will start with Tattva Gyan Patmala 2, Chapter 6, Shat Kaarak. Okay. सहजानंदी शुद्ध स्वरूपी अविनाशी हूँ आत्म स्वरूप सहजानंदी शुद्ध स्वरूपी अविनाशी हूँ आत्म स्वरूप सहजानंदी शुद्ध स्वरूपी अविनाशी हूँ आत्म स्वरूप निज निधि निज में बताई यह अनंत उपकार है इसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना शत बार है वंदना शत बार है जय जिनेंद्र
Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jinendra, everyone.
So all contemplate on these 10 virtues. I'm sure you'll get more time to ponder upon them again when you do your summaries. And depending on the time you spend with it, at least listen to the recordings and jot down the points for yourself. And more importantly, put it in practice in your life.